Hello, my friends. We continue our journey through the Old Testament, looking at the foreshadowings, the prophecies, the things that tell us something about the Savior that's going to come. We looked at wisdom yesterday and how Proverbs personifies wisdom and how that wisdom comes to be incarnate in Jesus. Let's turn to some prophets, and we'll spend the rest of our time probably in the prophets. And of course, the place to start when you're looking at Old Testament prophets is Isaiah. The largest book of prophecy in the Old Testament, but also the sort of the pivotal one. There are so many verses that talk about God's promise of salvation that speak specifically and apply specifically to the Christ. I don't even quite know where to start. So we're going to try chapter 7 today. We're going to look at some verses in chapter 7. You know, background, when we think about the prophets, we're not just talking about people who were predicting the future. They also, as they spoke, had a message specifically to the people of their day, a message that was either of judgment, of correction, or a word of promise that applied as the people that they were speaking to right then were listening, applied to their situation right there. Now, we also see in those echoes and predictions and prophecies of the Christ who is to come. There's sort of two levels always going on as you read through the prophets, and that's what we have here in chapter 7. The political situation was dangerous. King Ahaz was thinking about making some alliances with some foreign powers. Isaiah is trying to talk him out of it. And then God, through Isaiah, speaks to the king, telling the king to ask for a sign. The king says, I'm not going to test God. I'm not going to ask for a sign that God would take care of his people. And so down in chapter 7, verse 13, that's the situation where then Isaiah said, "Hear now, you house of David, is it not enough to try the patience of men? Will you try the patience of my God also? Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign," because Ahaz wouldn't ask for one. "The virgin will be with child and will give birth to a son, and will call him Emmanuel." Interesting. Remember, in the political situation of that day, King Ahaz was nervous, and all the people were nervous about foreign powers coming to encroach on them. And perhaps Isaiah is here giving sort of a figurative way of convincing Ahaz and the people that God actually was with his people, and speaking figuratively that within 9 months it was going to be so obvious that God was taking care of his people, even in the midst of these threats, that they'd have to declare, God is with us, Emmanuel. But of course we see in this another application. It's not just Isaiah speaking figuratively about God taking care of his people in a very short time, 700 years before Jesus was born. But of course, the New Testament applies these words directly to Mary, a virgin with child, who gives birth to God in the flesh, God who came to be with us. It's tremendous comfort for us that we don't have to go and protect ourselves. We don't have to go and find God. We don't have to make ourselves right with God. The direction gets reversed. God comes to us. He comes to find us. He comes to take residence with us. He is God with us. It's good to remember that direction of how God works. He doesn't wait for us to come to him. He comes to us. Just as he did in Isaiah's day, he saved his people, he cared for his people. So also he saves us and cares for us. He comes to us. He is God with us. We'll look at some more passages from Isaiah. There are so many, I don't even know how many we can get to, but we'll look at a few. We'll talk again tomorrow.